if you want a little bit more guidance, I'm going to illustrate how to do 3 basic things in the game. For your game, you want the 4 squares in the corner to start illuminated, because that's the starting configuration of the game. So right now we've got 1 square that starts illuminated. Instead of solving the problem for you, I'm going to show you how you could start it out so that the center square is illuminated. So I'm going to remove this line because I don't want the upper left-hand corner to start illuminated, but I need to figure out what's the location of the middle, because this is the row number, 2 is the row number, and 3 is the column number for where I want to assign the value 1. So you can see now I'm down 2 rows and over 1, 2, 3 columns. So it looks like if I'm down 2 and over 2, that would do it. That's a little bit less, so this is going to do it, but that's a little bit less nice. Because if we want to change the size of the game board, this won't always be the middle. So for example, if I go over here to run graphical game, at the top, if I make my game board be 7 by 7, and now I run it again, so now I've no longer illuminated the middle. I'm still down 2 and over 2. So if we want the center square to update itself according to the actual size of the grid, we have to use the width and the height. So here I could say width over 2. Wait, let's think about this. The first number, is it a row or a column? I guess the first number is a row, and so rows are describing how many rows do I go down. So really this should be height over 2. And it probably doesn't matter if the, what am I trying to do? Width. And it probably doesn't matter if the grid is square, but just to prevent confusion, it's nice to use the appropriate dimension. All right, so now I've run it. Great, and it's still in the center. All right, so now let's make it so that whenever anybody clicks in the grid, it will light that square up. So here inside move, the input row call is telling me the place where the person moved. So I'm going to take the grid, and in row call, I'm going to put a 1. And now when I run it, every single time they click, it will run the code. I don't know why I didn't click there. But what this isn't doing is, if I click on one that's already on, it doesn't turn it off, and it's also not changing the neighboring spots. The other thing it's not doing is it's not doing any bounds checking. So if I click off the grid over here, you see now it's crashed. It says array index out of bounds exception 7. So 7 is the location that I'm trying to access that's out of bounds. And if I click right here, this is the line that the error is happening on. So that's not a surprise, because this is the line where I'm actually trying to put something into the grid. So if this happens to you, your next step would be to try and figure out, is row too big or is column too big? And you would need to do what the if statement has here, which is put if statements to make sure that you only run this line of code if these 2 numbers are actually location numbers inside the grid. Okay, let's end by saying that the game is over if the upper left-hand corner is illuminated. So I could say if grid 0, 0 is equal to 1, that means it's on. So I could return true, because the is game over method is like asking the question, is the game over? And the return type, Boolean, is going to be true or false as a yes or no answer to the question, is the game over? So yes, the game is over because the corner square is illuminated. So for you, please do not try and put if statements for every single location in the grid. Instead, you should use that double loop formula that's on the back side of the reference page, where you loop over every single location and you ask each one, are you off? Because if you ever see one that's off, you're guaranteed that the game isn't over yet. Okay, I hope this was helpful.